The small town of Oakhaven was a place woven from quiet dreams and the gentle hum of everyday life. Nestled in a valley where ancient oak trees stood sentinel over winding cobblestone paths, it felt perpetually wrapped in a soft, golden twilight, even under the brightest sun. But it was in the hush of evening, when the moon, full and generous, cast its silvery glow over the slate roofs and blooming window boxes, that Oakhaven truly awoke to its own particular magic. Elara Vance knew this magic intimately. As the town's librarian, she spent her days surrounded by the hushed whispers of stories, the comforting scent of aged paper and leather, and the quiet rhythm of patrons browsing shelves. Her library, a sturdy stone building with tall arched windows that overlooked the town square, was her sanctuary, a place where the ordinary transformed into the extraordinary with the turn of a page. Every evening, just as the last stragglers departed and the clock chimed its final farewell to the daylight hours, Elara would begin her own ritual. She'd straighten a misplaced biography, tuck a stray bookmark back into its rightful home, and then, with a sigh of contentment, make her way to the large bay window that graced the library's reading. From here, she had a panoramic view of the square, the ancient fountain at its heart, and beyond, the gentle curve of the Willow Creek as it meandered through the valley. But her gaze was always drawn upwards, to the vast, inky canvas of the sky. Tonight, the moon was a slender crescent, a shy smile in the velvet darkness, promising the fullness to come. Elara cradled a warm mug of chamomile tea, its steam curling delicately into the cool evening air, and watched. She wasn't waiting for anything specific, simply observing, letting the quiet beauty of the night wash over her. It was a habit she'd cultivated since childhood, a silent conversation with the celestial, a time to let her thoughts drift and settle like dust motes in a sunbeam. Elara was by nature a creature of quiet habits and deep appreciation. Her days were filled with the small joys of connecting people with the right book, of seeing a child's eyes light up at a fairy tale, or recommending a forgotten classic to an eager reader. Her own world, though outwardly calm, was rich with imagination and a profound sense of wonder. She found beauty in the delicate veins of a fallen leaf, the intricate patterns of frost on a windowpane, and especially in the silent, enduring presence of the moon. She lived in a small cottage just a 10-minute walk from the library, its garden a riot of wildflowers and herbs that thrived under her gentle care. Every morning she'd wake to the scent of dew-kissed lavender and the cheerful chirping of sparrows, her window framing the same magnificent oak trees that gave Oakhaven its name. Life in Oakhaven was predictable, in the best possible way. There were the annual harvest festivals, the bustling market days, the occasional town gossip about Mrs. Gable's prize-winning zucchini or Mr. Henderson's perpetually lost spectacles. And there was Elara, a steadfast fixture, her quiet presence as much a part of Oakhaven as the cobblestones and the ancient oaks. As the moon climbed higher, casting a faint, ethereal glow into the library, Elara finally stirred. Her shift was truly over. She locked the heavy oak doors, the click echoing softly in the stillness, and stepped out into the crisp evening air. The scent of damp earth and night-blooming jasmine drifted from nearby gardens. A lone lamp post flickered, casting long, dancing shadows. She pulled her cardigan tighter, a contented sigh escaping her lips. This was her life, and she loved it. Yet sometimes, in the quietest corners of her heart, a small, unvoiced wish would stir. A wish for a story of her own, perhaps? One not bound within the pages of a book, but unfolding gently, organically, under the very same moon she so cherished. Why am I? The first hint of change arrived subtly, like a new melody woven into a familiar song. It began with the books. Elara, with her eidetic memory for titles and authors, started noticing a pattern. Obscure tomes on celestial navigation, forgotten texts on ancient folklore, rare editions of poetry dedicated to the stars and the sea. Books that rarely left their dusty shelves were suddenly being checked out, and, more curiously, returned with a small distinctive bookmark. It wasn't a library-issued bookmark. This one was crafted from thick handmade paper, faintly scented with something like cedar and dried herbs. On it, in elegant, precise script, was a single stylized symbol, a crescent moon cradling a tiny star. Elara found herself intrigued. Who was this new, discerning reader? The books were always returned promptly, left on the returns cart with the bookmark tucked carefully within the pages. She tried to catch a glimpse of the patron, but they seemed to move with an elusive grace, always just beyond her sight. Then came the questions. Not direct questions, but notes left on the inquiry desk or tucked into the suggestion box. Do you have any further works by Ptolemy regarding the Almagest? Or are there any local legends connected to the standing stones on Whisperwind Hill? Elara, delighted by the intellectual challenge, would meticulously research the answers, leaving them in a designated folder at the desk, wondering if her mysterious reader appreciated her efforts. One blustery Tuesday, as rain lashed against the library windows, casting the interior in a moody silver light, Elara was engrossed in cataloging a new collection of antique maps. She loved maps, the way they told stories of journeys, of discoveries, of the vast unknown world. The delicate lines, the faded colors, the fanciful sea monsters in uncharted waters, they were portals to other times, other places. A soft cough broke her concentration. She looked up, startled, to find a man standing quietly by the main desk. He was tall, with a lean, elegant build and hair the color of midnight, artfully tousled as if he'd just walked through a gentle storm. His eyes, a striking shade of deep hazel, held a thoughtful intensity, and a faint smile played on his lips. He wore a tweed jacket that looked both well-loved and impeccably tailored, and he carried a satchel that seemed to bulge with papers and notebooks. "Excuse me," he said, his voice a low, resonant baritone that sent a surprising little shiver down Elara's spine. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Not at all," Elara replied, her voice a little breathier than usual. She felt a blush creep up her neck. This had to be him. The moon and star bookmark, the esoteric inquiries. "I was wondering," he continued, gesturing vaguely towards the map section, "if you happen to have any works on early celestial cartography? I'm particularly interested in anything that predates the Age of Enlightenment." Elara's eyes lit up. "Oh yes, we have a rather rare collection in the archives, actually. Some beautiful star charts from the 16th century, and a few fascinating treatises on the relationship between terrestrial and celestial mapping. Are you a cartographer?" He smiled then, a genuine, warm smile that softened the intensity in his eyes and crinkled the corners of them charmingly. "Something like that. My name is Rhys Calloway. I have recently moved to Oakhaven." "Elara Vance," she replied, extending a hand. His grip was firm, warm, and brief. "Welcome to Oakhaven, Rhys. I'm Elara, the librarian." "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Elara," he said, and his gaze lingered for a moment, a flicker of something unreadable in its depths. "I've been making good use of your excellent collection, even if I haven't formally introduced myself until now." Elara felt a pleasant warmth spread through her. "I suspected as much. Your taste in books is singular." She couldn't help but add, "And I've been rather enjoying your bookmarks." Rhys's smile widened, a hint of amusement dancing in his eyes. "Ah, yes, a small personal touch, a reminder of the journey, I suppose." He tapped the satchel he carried. "I make them myself. They're a small hobby of mine." "They're beautiful," Elara said honestly. "The crescent moon and star, it's a lovely design." "Thank you," he replied, a hint of shyness in his tone. "It's a symbol I've always found rather comforting. A guide in the dark, perhaps." Elara felt a kinship stir within her. He understood. He saw the moon not just as a celestial body, but as a source of quiet wonder, a silent companion. "If you'd like," she offered, "I can show you to the archive. It's a bit off limits to general patrons, but given your specific interests, I think you'll find it quite rewarding." Rhys's eyes gleamed. "That would be wonderful, Elara. Thank you." As she led him through a discreet side door and down a narrow, winding staircase into the cool, quiet depths of the library's archive, Elara felt a lightness in her step. The air down here smelled even more intensely of old paper and dust, mingled with the faint, sweet scent of cedar. Rows of heavy wooden shelves stretched into the dimness, laden with bound volumes, ancient scrolls, and the very maps she loved so dearly. "Here we are," she whispered, switching on a series of lamps that cast pools of warm light onto the treasure trove of knowledge. Most of our celestial maps are in this section, along with works on astronomy and navigation. Rhys moved through the aisles with a reverence that mirrored her own. His fingers, long and slender, traced the spines of books, as if communing with their silent wisdom. He paused before a particularly large, leather-bound atlas. "Ah," he murmured, his voice soft, almost a whisper. "The Atlas Coelestis by John Flamsteed. Exquisite. I've only ever seen reproductions." Elara watched him, fascinated. He wasn't just looking at the books, he was experiencing them. There was a quiet passion in his posture, a deep respect for the knowledge held within these pages. He spent the better part of the afternoon in the archive, poring over maps and texts, meticulously taking notes in a leather-bound journal. Elara checked on him periodically, offering him tea and a comfortable armchair. Their conversations were sparse but meaningful, touching on the mysteries of the universe, the forgotten wisdom of ancient civilizations, and the sheer wonder of charting the unknown. By the time the library was preparing to close, Rhys had amassed a small stack of books he wished to borrow. As Elara checked them out, their fingers brushed over the cool surface of a star chart. A spark, subtle and fleeting, seemed to pass between them. "Thank you, Elara," he said, gathering his books into his satchel. "This has been truly illuminating. Oakhaven is even more remarkable than I'd imagined." "It has its charms," Elara agreed, her gaze meeting his. "I hope you'll visit again soon." "I wouldn't miss it," he replied, a genuine warmth in his smile. "Perhaps, if you're not busy one evening, I could show you some of my own work. I have a small studio here in town, and I've been working on a project that I think might interest you, given your love for maps and the night sky." Elara's heart gave a little leap. A studio? His own work? This was a delightful surprise. "I'd like that very much, Rhys. Just let me know when." He nodded, that thoughtful intensity returning to his hazel eyes. "I will. Good night, Elara." "Good night, Rhys." As he walked out, the library doors closing softly behind him, Elara felt a peculiar sense of anticipation. It wasn't just the thrill of a new intellectual connection. It was something softer, warmer, a subtle stirring in the quiet corners of her heart. She found herself smiling, a gentle, private smile, as she made her way to her bay window for her evening ritual. The crescent moon was a little higher now, a little brighter, a little more confident in its climb. It seemed to wink at her, as if sharing a secret. And in the soft glow of its light, Elara felt a whisper of something new, something beautiful, just beginning to unfold. The quiet rhythm of Oakhaven hadn't changed, but a new note had been added, a melody that promised a deeper, more resonant harmony. The pages of her own story, she realized, were finally beginning to turn. The pages of her own story, she realized, were finally beginning to turn. Elara hugged the thought to her chest, like a cherished volume, the words resonating with a quiet power. She moved through her small apartment above the written word, completing her nightly rituals with a newfound lightness in her step. The familiar scent of lavender from her pillow mist seemed to carry a hint of something more, something akin to the crisp scent of new paper or the subtle spice of a worn, leather-bound book. She changed into her softest pajamas, the deep teal silk gliding against her skin, and carefully braided her hair, a habit she'd kept since childhood. Usually this was a time for reflection on the day's quiet rhythms, but tonight, her mind hummed with a different melody. It was Liam. His easy smile, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he truly laughed, the surprising depth of his knowledge about first editions, and the gentle, almost reverent way he held a book. He hadn't been overtly flirtatious, not in the way of characters in the romance novels she sold, but there was an unmistakable current between them. A shared glance that lingered a fraction too long, a comfortable silence that felt less like an absence of words and more like a conversation without them. He had asked for her recommendations on local hiking trails, mentioning he was new to Oakhaven for a temporary project, and then, almost as an afterthought, had asked if she ever took a break from the bookstore. Her heart had done a curious little flip at that, a sensation she hadn't experienced in years, if ever. Lying in bed, the moonlight painting silver stripes across her duvet, Elara allowed herself to drift back to their last conversation. He had promised to return, not just for the hiking guide she'd found, but to explore more of your curated collection. A smile touched her lips. Curated collection. He understood her, understood the love and care she poured into her store. It wasn't just a job. It was a living, breathing extension of herself. The next morning, the air was crisp with the promise of autumn, a gentle chill that hinted at golden leaves and cozy firesides. Elara woke earlier than usual, a quiet energy thrumming beneath her skin. She found herself humming as she made her herbal tea, the melody light and improvisational. The bookstore, when she descended into it, seemed to greet her with a special warmth, the morning sun slanting through the front windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air like tiny hopeful stars. She spent the early hours tidying shelves, rearranging displays, and dusting. Every movement felt more purposeful, more imbued with a sense of anticipation. She chose a particularly vibrant bouquet of sunflowers and dahlias from the local flower stall, placing them on the counter, their cheerful faces a bright counterpoint to the rich, muted tones of the books. When Mrs. Gable, a regular who always bought a new mystery novel on Tuesdays, entered, she paused. "Elara dear, you're positively glowing this morning," Mrs. Gable observed, her kind eyes twinkling over her spectacles. "Something wonderful happen?" Elara felt a blush creep up her neck. "Just a beautiful morning, Mrs. Gable," she demurred, though the compliment warmed her. She knew it wasn't just the morning. It was the whisper of something new, waiting just beyond the horizon of her quiet life. The day unfolded with its usual rhythm of customers browsing, the gentle rustle of turning pages, and the soft murmur of conversation. Yet, for Elara, each chime of the bell above the door brought a tiny flutter of expectation. She found herself glancing up more often, a subtle smile playing on her lips. By mid-afternoon, when the light began to soften and lengthen, casting warm hues across the wooden shelves, the bell finally chimed with a particular urgency. It was Liam. He stood just inside the doorway, a canvas messenger bag slung over one shoulder, his presence instantly filling the space with an easy confidence. His eyes, the color of warm honey, met hers, and the world seemed to hold its breath for a fraction of a second. "Good afternoon, Elara," he said, his voice a low, pleasant rumble that always seemed to find a resonance deep within her. "I hope I'm not interrupting your afternoon quiet." "Never," she replied, her voice steady despite the quickening of her pulse. "Just enjoying the afternoon light. Did you find the hiking guide useful?" He grinned, a flash of white against his tanned skin. "Incredibly. I spent a good hour this morning mapping out a trail for tomorrow. I owe you a coffee for that excellent recommendation." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the vibrant flowers on the counter. "Though I suspect you have a constant supply of beauty here." Elara gestured to the sunflowers. "Just trying to keep up with Oakhaven's charm." "It's working," he said, his gaze returning to hers, holding it. "So, about that coffee. Would you perhaps consider joining me after you close up shop? There's a small place down the road, the Daily Grind, that has a surprisingly good espresso." The invitation hung in the air, a delicate, fragile thing. Elara felt a wave of warmth spread through her. A coffee. It was simple, casual, yet it felt monumental. "I'd like that, Liam," she said, her smile genuine and unreserved. "I close at 6. "Perfect," he said, the smile in his eyes deepening. "I'll be back around then." He didn't linger, just gave a quick nod and a final lingering look before turning and stepping back out into the fading afternoon light, leaving Elara with a heart that felt like it had taken flight. The remaining hours until closing were a blur of anticipation. She tidied with a renewed vigor, ensuring every book was in its proper place, every surface gleaming. She even changed her blouse, opting for a soft moss-green silk that brought out the subtle highlights in her hair. It felt silly, this sudden burst of vanity, but exhilarating all the same. This wasn't just a coffee, it was a step, a gentle turning of another page. Precisely at 6, Liam was back. He leaned against the doorframe, hands casually tucked into his pockets, a picture of relaxed charm. He wore a simple dark blue shirt that complemented the rich tone of his skin and hair. "Ready?" he asked, his voice soft, as if not to disturb the quiet magic of the closing bookstore. "Ready," Elara confirmed, switching off the main lights, plunging the store into a cozy twilight, lit only by the last vestiges of the evening sun and the soft glow of her apartment's windows above. The walk to the daily grind was short, but filled with an easy conversation. They talked about the changes Oakhaven had seen over the years, the quirky habits of its residents, and the surprising resilience of small-town businesses. Liam listened intently, his head tilted slightly, his gaze never leaving her face. He spoke of his work as an architectural historian, documenting and preserving historic buildings, which was what brought him to Oakhaven to assess the old mill on the outskirts of town. "It's a beautiful structure," he explained, "full of stories, even if the walls can't speak. My job is to listen for them, to interpret the whispers of the past." Elara felt a thrill of understanding. "That's exactly how I feel about books," she said. "They hold entire worlds, entire lives within their pages. We just have to know how to listen." He smiled, a genuine, open smile that reached his eyes. "I knew we'd understand each other, Elara." The daily grind was bustling, filled with the comforting hum of conversation and the rich aroma of coffee. They found a small, intimate table in a corner, bathed in the warm glow of a string of fairy lights. Over steaming mugs of espresso, their conversation deepened. Liam spoke of his travels, the ancient ruins he'd explored, the vibrant cultures he'd encountered. He spoke with a quiet passion that was infectious, drawing Elara into his world of history and discovery. "It sounds incredible," she said, imagining dusty scrolls and forgotten empires. "I've always been more of a homebody, traveling through the pages of books. And there's a profound beauty in that too," he said, his gaze thoughtful. "To find entire universes within four walls. But perhaps," he added, leaning forward slightly, his voice a little lower, "there's a universe or two out there that might surprise you given the chance." Elara felt a delightful blush creep across her cheeks. He wasn't just talking about travel, she realized. He was talking about life, about opening up to new experiences, new possibilities. And perhaps, new people. They talked for what felt like hours, the world outside the cafe fading into a soft blur. They discovered a shared love for jazz music, a mutual disdain for overly sweet desserts, and a surprisingly similar dry wit. Liam was insightful, asking questions that made her think, that made her articulate feelings she hadn't realized she held. He was also a good listener, his attention unwavering, making her feel seen and heard in a way she hadn't in a long time. When the barista began subtly dimming the lights, signaling closing time, Elara felt a pang of disappointment. "I didn't realize how late it was," she said, surprised. "Time has a way of doing that when you're enjoying yourself," Liam replied, his eyes reflecting the soft lights of the cafe. He walked her back to the written word, the night air cool and invigorating. The crescent moon, a familiar friend, was higher now, casting a gentle glow on the quiet street. At her doorstep they paused. The silence between them was different now, charged with a new understanding, a new connection. "Thank you, Liam," Elara said softly, looking up at him. "This was wonderful." "It truly was, Elara," he agreed, his gaze warm and direct. He hesitated for a moment, then reached out, his fingers gently brushing hers as he took her hand, his thumb tracing a light pattern on her skin. "I'd like to do it again, perhaps a walk tomorrow if you're free. There's a lovely path by the creek I heard about, and I could use a local expert to guide me." Her heart fluttered. "Oh, a walk. Another step. I'd like that very much," she said, her voice a little breathless. "Excellent," he said, his smile radiating warmth. He squeezed her hand gently before releasing it. "Good night, Elara." "Good night, Liam." She watched him walk away, his silhouette disappearing into the shadows of the street. Inside her apartment, the silence felt different again. Not empty, but full of unspoken words, of burgeoning feelings. She realized she was smiling, a wide, unbidden smile that stretched across her face. The next day, Elara found herself eagerly anticipating their walk. She chose a comfortable yet stylish outfit, a deep forest green sweater and dark jeans, and braided her hair with a small, delicate silver charm woven into it. The bookstore felt a little more vibrant, a little more alive, reflecting her own inner state. When Liam arrived just after closing, dressed in casual hiking attire, his eyes lit up when he saw her. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked, his smile infectious. "As I'll ever be," she replied, a lightness in her step as she locked the door behind them. The creek path was indeed lovely, winding through ancient oak trees, their leaves just beginning to show hints of gold and russet. The air was fresh and cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. They walked at an easy pace, their conversation flowing effortlessly. Liam pointed out different types of trees, sharing fascinating tidbits about their history and folklore. Elara, in turn, told him about the local bird species, their songs a familiar soundtrack to her life in Oakhaven. They talked about their families, their childhoods. Elara, an only child, spoke of growing up surrounded by books, finding solace and adventure within their pages. Liam, the youngest of three boisterous brothers, described a childhood filled with exploration and playful mischief. Despite their different upbringings, there was a shared thread of curiosity and a deep appreciation for stories, whether found in books, buildings, or nature itself. As they reached a particularly scenic spot overlooking a small waterfall, they paused, leaning against a weathered wooden fence. The gentle roar of the water filled the air, a soothing backdrop to their quiet companionship. "It's beautiful here," Liam murmured, his gaze sweeping over the landscape. "Thank you for sharing it with me." "It's one of my favorite spots," Elara confessed, feeling a comfortable ease settle between them. "I often come here when I need to clear my head, or just to feel grounded." He turned to her then, his eyes soft. "You seem very grounded, Elara. There's a quiet strength about you, a sense of peace." His words resonated deeply. It wasn't often that someone truly I saw her beyond the bookseller, beyond the quiet woman. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling of being truly understood. "I try to be," she admitted, a small, shy smile playing on her lips. "Life in Oakhaven tends to lend itself to that." "I can see why you love it here," he said. "It has a timeless quality, a charm that feels deeply rooted." He paused, then his gaze grew more serious, though still gentle. "But even rooted things can grow, can reach for new light, can they not?" Elara's breath hitched slightly. The question hung in the air, weighted with unspoken meaning. It felt like he was looking directly into her soul, seeing the parts of her that longed for more, the parts she usually kept hidden. "They can," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the waterfall. "Sometimes, they just need a little nudge, or perhaps, a new gardener." Liam's smile was slow, warm, and utterly captivating. He reached out, his hand gently covering hers where it rested on the fence. His touch was light, yet firm, sending a shiver of pleasant anticipation through her. "Perhaps," he said, his voice a low, comforting hum. "Or perhaps they just need someone to admire their bloom." They stood there for a long moment, their hands touching, the sound of the waterfall a gentle symphony around them. The world felt vibrant and alive, filled with the promise of autumn and the even more profound promise of something new blooming between them. The walk back was equally effortless, their conversation weaving between light-hearted banter and deeper insights. By the time they reached the written word, the last vestiges of twilight had faded, leaving a sky dusted with the first bright stars. "Thank you, Liam," Elara said again, her heart full. "Today was truly lovely." "The pleasure was all mine, Elara," he replied, his gaze lingering on her face. "I'm glad you let me coax you out of your literary sanctuary for a while." He stepped closer, and for a moment, Elara thought he might lean in, might bridge the small distance between them. Her breath caught in her throat. But he simply reached out, his thumb gently brushing a stray tendril of hair from her cheek. "I should let you get some rest. You have books to attend to. And you have old mills to decipher," she said, a playful note in her voice. He chuckled. "Indeed. But perhaps," he began, his eyes twinkling, "we could decipher something together soon? There's a small independent film festival starting next week at the old Oakhaven Cinema. They're showing some wonderful classics." Elara's smile widened. A film festival. A date. It was all unfolding so naturally, so beautifully. "I would love that, Liam," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Excellent," he said, his smile radiant. "I'll pick you up around 7 on Friday. Is that all right?" "Perfect," she confirmed. He nodded, a warmth in his gaze that seemed to linger even after he turned to leave. This time, he didn't touch her, but the unspoken connection between them was palpable, a shimmering thread of anticipation. As Ilara unlocked her door and stepped into the quiet darkness of the bookstore, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. Oakhaven, with its gentle rhythms and familiar comforts, was still the same. Yet, it felt entirely new, seen through a lens of budding romance. The pages of her story weren't just turning anymore. They were beginning to fill with vibrant new colors, with melodies she hadn't known she was waiting to hear. She knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her heart, that this was just the beginning. The next chapter promised to be the most captivating one yet. The next chapter promised to be the most captivating one yet. And so it began, not with a grand declaration but with the quiet unfolding of days, each one a brushstroke on the canvas of her new reality. The air in Oakhaven seemed to hum with a different frequency now, a gentle melody that resonated deep within her. She found herself waking with a lightness she hadn't known she was missing, a quiet anticipation for whatever the day might bring, knowing that somewhere within its hours, there would likely be a glimpse, a smile, a shared moment with him. Their first real outing, if one could even call it that, was a spontaneous invitation to help him at the Oakhaven Historical Society, where he volunteered on Saturdays. He'd sheepishly mentioned a new collection of Old Town records needing archiving and a second pair of careful hands. She, intrigued, had readily agreed. The afternoon had passed in a comfortable rhythm of rustling paper, soft murmurs of discovery, and the scent of aged parchment. He had a way of explaining the history of Oakhaven, breathing life into dusty ledgers, his voice a low, melodic rumble that made even property deeds sound fascinating. She learned about the town's founders, its quiet booms and gentle declines, and the resilient spirit that had always flowed through its people. More importantly, she learned about Heinheim. She watched the way his brow furrowed in concentration, the quiet pride in his eyes as he showed her a photograph of a long-gone general store, the gentle reverence with which he handled each brittle document. He wasn't just passionate about history. He was passionate about connection, about understanding where they came from, about the stories embedded in the very foundations of Oakhaven. It was a depth she found profoundly attractive, a quiet strength that underpinned his easy charm. As the sun began to dip, casting long golden shadows through the arched windows of the old building, they found themselves poring over a faded map of Oakhaven from the turn of the century. His finger traced the familiar streets, then paused on a tiny, unmarked patch of woodland on the outskirts. "This," he murmured, his voice soft, "is where the old Willow Creek Trail used to run. Most of it's overgrown now, but there's a clearing, a hidden meadow, where the wild irises bloom in spring. My grandmother used to take me there." A shared secret, a fragment of his childhood, offered without fanfare. Her heart gave a soft flutter. "A hidden meadow?" she echoed, a smile playing on her lips. "That sounds like something out of a storybook." He looked up, meeting her gaze, his eyes warm with a gentle light. "It is, a little. Maybe one day, when the irises are out, I could show you." The unspoken promise hung in the air, sweet and full of possibility. It was more than just an invitation. It was an offering of shared beauty, a glimpse into his private world. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a quiet joy that was both exhilarating and deeply comforting. "I would like that very much," she said, her voice a little softer than she intended. Their evenings, too, began to fall into a delightful pattern. Sometimes, he would drop by her cozy cottage with a thermos of spiced cider, and they would sit on her porch swing, watching the stars pepper the inky sky, talking about everything and nothing. They discussed books they loved, dreams they harbored, the whimsical habits of Oakhaven's resident cat, Mittens. She discovered his surprising talent for sketching, his hands, so capable and strong, moving with a delicate precision as he captured the intricate details of a fallen oak leaf. He, in turn, was fascinated by her artistic process, the way her eyes would light up as she spoke of color and composition, the quiet intensity with which she approached her easel. One crisp autumn evening, as the scent of wood smoke mingled with the sweet decay of fallen leaves, he arrived with a small, carefully wrapped package. "I was at the old bookstore in Mill Creek," he explained, a shy smile on his face, "and I saw this. It made me think of you." Inside, nestled amongst tissue paper, was a beautifully bound edition of a classic collection of poetry, one she had mentioned in passing weeks ago, a personal favorite. Her fingers traced the elegant gold lettering on the cover. "Oh," she breathed, genuinely touched. "This is wonderful, thank you." It wasn't just the gift itself, but the thoughtfulness, the quiet attention to detail that spoke volumes. He had listened, remembered, and acted on it. It was a gesture that transcended mere acquaintance, hinting at a deeper understanding, a quiet recognition of her soul. "I remembered you said you loved the way the poet captured the beauty in the everyday," he said, his gaze steady, "and I think you do that too, with your art. You find the extraordinary in the ordinary." His words settled over her like a warm blanket, a profound compliment that saw beyond the surface. It was moments like these, small and unassuming, that built the sturdy foundation of their connection. They weren't just enjoying each other's company, they were seeing each other, truly seeing, with a clarity that was both humbling and exhilarating. As autumn deepened, painting Oak Haven in fiery hues of crimson and gold, their adventures grew a little bolder. He took her on a drive along the scenic backroads, past orchards heavy with apples and pumpkins glowing in fields. They stopped at a roadside stand, filling a basket with crisp gala apples and a jar of local honey. Later, back in her kitchen, they baked an apple pie, their hands occasionally brushing as they peeled and sliced, a silent current passing between them. The warmth of the oven, the sweet, spicy aroma filling her cottage, the easy rhythm of their teamwork, it all felt incredibly natural, as if they had been doing it for years. He watched her, a soft smile playing on his lips, as she carefully crimped the edges of the pie crust. "You make this look effortless," he observed. She laughed, a genuine, uninhibited sound. "It's all in the technique, and maybe a little bit of magic." She glanced up at him, her eyes sparkling. "Or maybe it's just more fun with good company." His smile widened, and for a moment, the air in the cozy kitchen seemed to thicken with an unspoken tenderness. It was a comfortable silence, full of shared warmth and burgeoning affection. One afternoon, a light drizzle turned into a steady rain, perfect for curling up indoors. He arrived with a small, worn chessboard, a relic from his own childhood. "Care for a game?" he asked, his eyes twinkling. She had never played chess before, but he was a patient teacher, guiding her through the moves with gentle encouragement. They spent hours lost in the strategic dance of knights and pawns, punctuated by his soft explanations and her delighted exclamations. She lost every game gracefully, but found herself utterly charmed by the process, by the quiet intensity that flickered in his eyes when he considered his next move, by the way he would subtly nudge her towards a better play without giving it away entirely. "You're learning quickly," he praised, after she managed to capture his rook in a particularly clever maneuver. "Only because I have a very good teacher," she replied, a blush rising to her cheeks. She loved these quiet, intimate moments, where the world outside seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, immersed in simple pleasures. Their conversations deepened, moving beyond shared interests to touch on vulnerabilities, fears, and the quiet hopes they held for the future. She learned about his family, about the loss of his grandfather, a man he clearly admired deeply, and how that loss had shaped his appreciation for Oak Haven and its enduring spirit. He in turn listened with rapt attention as she spoke of her own journey, of the dreams she'd chased in bigger cities, and the quiet realization that had drawn her back to the gentle embrace of Oak Haven. She shared her occasional doubts, the artistic blocks, the fear of not being enough, and he listened without judgment, offering not solutions but a comforting presence, a steady hand, and the quiet reassurance that she was more than enough, just as she was. Sometimes, she confessed one evening, after a particularly challenging day in her studio, "I worry if I've made the right choice, coming back here, if I'm capable of building a life that feels as vibrant as the art I want to create." He reached across the small table between them, taking her hand gently. His touch was warm, reassuring. "Elara, finally, a name for our protagonist," he said, his voice soft. "Oak Haven isn't a limitation, it's a canvas. And you're vibrant in ways you might not even fully see yet. Look at how you've brought new life to that old cottage, how you've already found your place in the community. You have a way of seeing beauty and bringing it forth, whether it's on canvas or just in the way you interact with the world." His belief in her was a powerful, grounding force. It wasn't a blind adoration, but an observant, steady faith in her capabilities and her spirit. It was the kind of love that didn't seek to change her, but to celebrate and uplift her. As the days shortened and the first faint dusting of frost appeared on the pumpkin fields, a small community event, the Oakhaven Harvest Festival, brought them even closer. He was in charge of the historical exhibit, displaying old photographs and artifacts, while she had a small stall showcasing her landscape paintings, capturing Oakhaven's beauty through her unique artistic lens. The festival buzzed with cheerful energy. Children chased each other with sticky caramel apples, the scent of cinnamon and roasted nuts filled the air, and local musicians played folk tunes on a makeshift stage. Elara found herself constantly drawn to Liam's booth, her heart doing a little skip each time she saw him, animatedly explaining a piece of Oakhaven's past to a curious visitor, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners when he smiled. He, in turn, would periodically wander over to her stall, not just to check on her but to admire her latest work, his quiet praise always making her feel seen and appreciated. "Your autumn glow piece," he said, gesturing to a painting of a sun-dappled forest path. "It's as if I can feel the crisp air, hear the rustle of the leaves. You've truly captured the soul of Oakhaven." Her cheeks flushed with pleasure. "Thank you. This town has certainly inspired me." She looked around at the bustling festival, then back at him. "It's wonderful, isn't it? All these people, sharing stories, celebrating together." He nodded, his gaze lingering on her. "It is. Oakhaven has a way of drawing people in, of making them feel like they belong." His voice dropped slightly. "I think you found your way home, Elara." His words, simple yet profound, resonated deeply within her. It wasn't just about the physical place, it was about the sense of belonging she felt with him, the feeling of her heart settling into a rhythm it hadn't known it was seeking. Later that evening, as the festival wound down, they found themselves walking home together, the last strains of music fading behind them. The air was cool and crisp, and a brilliant full moon cast a silvery glow over the silent street. They walked hand in hand, a comfortable silence enveloping them. His thumb gently stroked the back of her hand, a small, tender gesture that sent shivers of warmth through her. When they reached her cottage, bathed in the soft glow of her porch light, they paused. The moment stretched, full of unspoken emotion. He turned to face her. His eyes, usually so light-hearted, now held a deeper intensity. "Elara," he began, his voice a low murmur. I feel something truly special with you. Something I haven't felt before." He paused, searching for the right words. "It's like you've unlocked colors in my world I didn't even know were missing. And I hope you feel something similar." Her heart swelled with an overwhelming rush of affection. She reached up, gently touching his cheek, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath her fingertips. "Liam," she whispered, using his name for the first time with such intimacy. "I feel it too. More than I could have imagined. It's like my whole life was a beautiful sketch, waiting for you to add the vibrant hues." He smiled, a slow, tender smile that reached his eyes. And then he leaned down, slowly, giving her all the time in the world to respond. Her eyes fluttered closed as his lips met hers, soft and warm, a gentle brush that was both a question and a promise. It wasn't a demanding kiss, but a tender affirmation, a quiet understanding passing between them, sealing the blossoming feelings they had nurtured. It tasted of apple pie, of autumn air, and of a future stretching out, bright and full of possibility. When they finally parted, a comfortable breathlessness hung between them. She opened her eyes to find him looking at her, his expression filled with a quiet joy that mirrored her own. "Good night, Elara," he murmured, his voice a little husky. "Good night, Liam," she replied, her heart singing. She watched him walk away, his silhouette disappearing into the moonlit night, and then she stepped inside her cottage, a profound sense of peace settling over her. The silence of the house no longer felt empty, but filled with the echoes of shared laughter, whispered confidences, and the lingering warmth of a kiss. The following weeks brought a deepening of their bond. They spent a quiet Sunday morning at the Oakhaven Library, each lost in their own books, yet connected by the shared tranquility, occasionally exchanging a knowing glance or a soft smile. They took long walks along the winding paths of the local park, his hand finding hers naturally, their conversations flowing easily, punctuated by comfortable silences. They discovered a shared love for old black and white movies, spending cozy evenings on her sofa, wrapped in a soft blanket, sharing popcorn and gentle laughter. Elara found herself drawing him, not directly, but in the strength of a tree trunk, the kindness in an animal's eyes, the quiet contemplation of a distant horizon. He was becoming an integral part of her inspiration, a muse not just for art, but for life itself. She felt more grounded, more truly herself than she had in years. Oakhaven, which had once felt like a comforting retreat, now felt like a vibrant home, filled with the promise of a shared future. Liam, too, seemed to flourish. His quiet humor became more pronounced, his step lighter. Friends and acquaintances in town noticed the change, remarking on the happy glow that now seemed to perpetually surround him. He often spoke of Elara with a gentle pride, sharing anecdotes of her artistic insights or her quick wit, his eyes shining with an unmistakable affection. One particularly cold evening, as the first snowflakes of winter began to drift lazily from the sky, they were sitting by her crackling fireplace, mugs of hot cocoa warming their hands. Elara was sketching in her notebook, capturing the intricate dance of the flames. Liam was quietly reading a book, but every so often, his gaze would drift to her, a soft smile gracing his lips. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, without looking up, sensing his gentle attention. He closed his book, placing it carefully on the side table. "Just thinking about how much I love watching you create," he admitted, his voice low. "And how grateful I am that you came back to Oakhaven." He paused, then added, "that you came into Wyoming Oakhaven." She finally looked up, her heart full. "And I'm grateful for your Oakhaven, Liam, for everything." She set her sketchpad aside, turning fully towards him. "Sometimes I still can't believe how perfectly everything has fallen into place. It feels fated, almost." He reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "Maybe some things are," he said, his eyes reflecting the warmth of the fire. "Maybe some stories are just waiting for the right moment, and the right people, to finally begin their most beautiful chapter." The snow outside began to fall a little faster, blanketing Oakhaven in a pristine white. Inside, by the fire, their shared warmth grew, a quiet testament to a love story unfolding, gentle and profound, with every passing moment. The pages of their story were no longer just filling, they were becoming a masterpiece, rich with shared laughter, deep understanding, and a love that promised to warm even the coldest of winter nights. And as the world outside prepared for a slumber, their hearts were wide awake, ready for all the enchanting chapters yet to come. The chill of winter deepened, but inside the snowdrift inn, a warmth that transcended the roaring hearth fire continued to grow. Elara had found her rhythm, not just within the inn's daily routines, but within the quieter, more profound rhythm of Rias life. She helped with the bookkeeping, her neat script a beautiful counterpoint to the more pragmatic ledger entries, and added delicate, thoughtful touches to the inn's decor. A sprig of dried lavender here, a hand-stitched cushion there, turning a comfortable place into a true home. Her laughter, light and clear, now echoed through the halls, a melody Reese hadn't realized his life had been missing until it filled the space. One blustery afternoon, as snow swirled outside, a letter arrived for Elara, delivered by the postman who braved even the harshest weather. It bore a familiar, elegant script from a life she had purposefully left behind. Reese, watching her across the cozy parlor, saw the subtle shift in her posture, the way her fingers hesitated before opening the envelope. It wasn't a look of fear, but of profound introspection, perhaps a touch of trepidation. "Everything all right?" he asked, his voice soft, not wanting to intrude but wanting to offer his presence. Elara looked up, a small, wistful smile touching her lips. "It's from my aunt, my mother's sister. She's selling the old family home. It's been empty for years, of course, since everything. She wanted to know if I wanted anything from it before she finalizes the sale." Reese saw the unspoken weight in her eyes. The old family home, a symbol of both comfort and eventual loss. "Do you?" Elara sighed, running a finger over the smooth parchment. "I don't know. Part of me wants to forget it all, to leave it firmly in the past. Another part, it was my childhood home. There were good memories too before the shadows grew long." She looked out the window, at the falling snow, mirroring the quiet storm within her. It feels like a final severing, a true goodbye. A goodbye doesn't always have to be sad, Reese said gently, walking over to sit opposite her. Sometimes it's a necessary step towards a new beginning, but it's okay to acknowledge what was, too. The good and the bad. It all made you who you are, Alara. And who you are is remarkable. His words were a balm, warm and reassuring. Alara met his gaze, and a little of the tension eased from her shoulders. I'm just not sure I'm ready to face it, to sift through the echoes. You don't have to do it alone, Reese offered, his hand reaching across the small table to cover hers, a silent promise of support. If you decide you want to go, I'll go with you. If you decide you want to let it go, I'll be here to help you build new memories here. The simple declaration, the unwavering strength in his touch, was exactly what she needed. It wasn't about the house or the past, but about having someone by her side, no matter the choice. Thank you, Reese, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Just thank you. She decided after a few days of quiet contemplation not to go. Instead, she wrote a long, heartfelt letter to her aunt, asking for a few specific items: a worn leather-bound copy of her grandmother's favorite poems, a small, intricate wooden music box that had played a lullaby, and a framed photograph of her parents from happier times. When the package arrived a few weeks later, Reese was there as she opened it. He watched as she carefully unwrapped each item, a gentle smile on her face as she remembered. The music box still played its sweet, slightly tinny tune, and the photograph, though faded, captured a moment of pure joy. It was a reclaiming, not of a house, but of fragments of love and memory, brought into the safety of her new life, a testament to healing. With the gentle closure of her past, Alara felt a renewed sense of possibility blossom within her. As winter slowly receded, giving way to the tentative greens of early spring, another facet of Alara's spirit began to emerge. Reese noticed her often sketching in a small notebook, capturing the intricate patterns of frost on a window pane, the sturdy branches of the ancient oak outside the inn, or the soft light of a spring dawn over the mountains. Her drawings were exquisite, filled with a quiet beauty and an almost ethereal quality. These are beautiful, Alara, he said one morning, peering over her shoulder as she sketched a robin perched on a budding branch. Truly remarkable. She blushed, a rare sight, and tried to close the notebook. Oh, it's just a hobby, something I do to relax. More than a hobby, Reese insisted gently, stopping her hand. You have a gift. Have you ever thought of doing more with it? Alara looked at him, her eyes wide. More? What more could I do? Share it, he said, a thoughtful expression on his face. He gestured around the inn's spacious, unused common room on the second floor, currently filled with old furniture and boxes. This room, it's just collecting dust. What if we transformed it? Made it your studio, a place for you to create and perhaps even to display your work? Alara's heart fluttered. The idea was audacious, terrifying, and utterly thrilling. A studio? Here? Why not? Reese's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. Silver Caven would adore it, and you could finally have a dedicated space, filled with light and inspiration. He saw the uncertainty in her eyes, the familiar hint of self-doubt. You deserve to pursue something that brings you such joy, Alara, and I'd love to help you build it. And so, a new project began, not just for the inn, but for their shared future. They spent the next few weeks clearing the room, painting the walls a soft, airy cream, and sanding the old wooden floors. Reese, with his practical skills, built sturdy easels and shelves for her supplies, while Alara meticulously chose fabrics for cushions and decided on the perfect placement for a large, north-facing window to maximize the natural light. It was a physical manifestation of their growing partnership, each hammer blow and brushstroke a testament to their combined dreams. The studio, when finished, was a haven of creativity, a light-filled sanctuary where Alara's artistic spirit could finally soar. She began painting in earnest, capturing the breathtaking landscapes of Silver Caven, the changing seasons, and even quiet portraits of the inn's beloved regulars. Her art was imbued with same gentle warmth and profound depth that characterized her own spirit, and soon, word spread. Guests would wander upstairs, drawn by the vibrant colors and serene atmosphere, and many left with a small painting or sketch, a piece of Silverhaven and Ilara's heart, to take home. One warm evening, as dusk painted the sky in hues of lavender and rose, they sat in the newly finished studio, the scent of oil paints mingling with the fresh breeze from the open window. Ilara had just completed a painting of the Snowdrift Inn under a blanket of stars, the warm glow from its windows a beacon against the inky sky. It was her best work yet, a heartfelt tribute to the place that had become her refuge and her home. "It's perfect, Ilara," Rhys said, his voice husky with admiration, his arm wrapped around her shoulders. "It captures everything, the warmth, the hope, the magic of this place." Ilara leaned her head against his shoulder, a deep sense of contentment settling over her. "It's home, Rhys. You made it home." He turned to face her, his gaze intense, filled with an emotion that made her breath catch. "You are my home, Ilara. More than this inn, more than these mountains. You are where my heart truly belongs." He reached into his pocket, his hand trembling slightly, and pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden box. It wasn't flashy or grand, but it was beautiful, clearly handmade, reflecting the care and thought Rhys put into everything. He opened it, revealing a simple silver ring, engraved with a delicate snowflake pattern. "This was my grandmother's," he explained, his voice softer now. "She always said it brought good fortune and reminded her of the quiet strength of winter. I want to give it to you, not just as a ring, but as a promise." He took her hand, his thumb tracing the lines on her palm. "Ilara, every day with you is a gift. You've brought light and laughter back into my life, a depth of connection I never imagined possible. I can't imagine a future without you by my side. Will you marry me? Will you make Silverhaven and my life truly ours, forever?" Tears welled in Ilara's eyes, hot and joyful. It wasn't a question of if, but when. It was the natural culmination of everything they had built, everything they had become. "Yes, Rhys," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "1,000 times yes." He slid the snowflake ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, a cool, smooth circle of promise against her skin. He then cupped her face in his hands, his eyes shining, and kissed her, a tender, heartfelt kiss that sealed their vows under the starlit ceiling of her new studio, their shared future stretching out before them, bright and full of hope. The news of their engagement spread through Silverhaven like wildfire, met with genuine delight and hearty congratulations. The inn's regulars, who had watched their love story unfold with quiet fondness, were thrilled. They felt a sense of ownership over Ilara's happiness, having seen her transform from a woman seeking refuge to one who had found her true home. They decided on a simple, intimate wedding, just as their proposal had been. They wanted it to be a celebration of their love, surrounded by the people and the place that meant so much to them. The community, however, had other ideas about a simple wedding. Mrs. Gable, the town baker, insisted on baking their wedding cake, a magnificent creation adorned with sugar-spun snowflakes and delicate silver leaves. Old Mr. Henderson, the retired carpenter, offered to craft a beautiful wooden arch for the ceremony, adorned with wild flowers from the meadows. Even the children of Silverhaven, who had grown fond of Ilara's gentle smiles and Rhys's kind demeanor, prepared a special song to sing. Ilara found herself overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support. It wasn't just Rhys's love that had embraced her, it was the love of an entire community. She truly belonged here, not just as Rhys's wife-to-be, but as a cherished member of Silverhaven. They chose late summer for their wedding, when the mountains were lush and green, and the air was sweet with the scent of pine and wild blossoms. The ceremony would be held outdoors, in a secluded clearing near the inn, beneath the ancient oak that had watched over Silverhaven for centuries. As the day approached, a nervous excitement buzzed between them. They spent evenings by the fire, planning details, but mostly just talking, sharing their dreams, their fears, their hopes for the life they were about to embark upon together. Ilara found herself reminiscing about her arrival in Silverhaven, the fear and uncertainty she had carried. "I never thought I'd find this," she confessed one night, tracing the snowflake on her ring. "This peace, this joy, this completeness." Rhys squeezed her hand, I never knew what I was missing until you walked through the door, Alara. You brought a color to my world I didn't even know was absent. The wedding day dawned crisp and clear, a perfect Silvercaven summer day. The sun shone brightly, illuminating the dew-kissed leaves of the trees. Alara, dressed in a gown of ivory silk that flowed gracefully, looked ethereal. Her hair was woven with tiny white wildflowers, mirroring the natural beauty of their chosen setting. As she walked towards the clearing, escorted by a beaming Rhys, the gentle murmur of the Silvercaven stream provided a natural soundtrack. Rhys stood waiting for her beneath the arch Mr. Henderson had crafted, his eyes alight with love and anticipation. He wore a simple suit, tailored perfectly, but it was his smile that truly captivated her, a smile of pure, unadulterated happiness. As Alara reached him, he took her hands, his touch warm and steady. The small gathering of friends and family watched, their faces reflecting the joy of the moment. The local pastor, a kind-faced woman who had watched Rhys grow up, led the ceremony. Their vows were simple, heartfelt promises of enduring love, unwavering support, and shared dreams. Alara spoke of finding hope and belonging in Rhys's arms, of the quiet strength he had given her. Rhys spoke of Alara's light, her grace, and how she had taught him the true meaning of home. As they exchanged rings, the silver snowflake on Alara's finger glinted in the sunlight, a beautiful symbol of their unique journey. With a final tender kiss, they were pronounced husband and wife. A cheer erupted from their guests, followed by the sweet, slightly off-key, but utterly charming song from the children. Laughter and tears mingled freely as they walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, a new chapter officially begun. The celebration continued at the Snowdrift Inn, transformed into a wonderland of fairy lights and floral arrangements. Mrs. Gable's cake was indeed magnificent, and the dance floor was filled with joyous revelers. Alara found herself dancing with Rhys, spinning under the soft glow of the lights, feeling utterly weightless and profoundly cherished. Later, as the stars began to pepper the twilight sky, they stole a moment away, walking to the edge of the inn's garden, looking out at the mountains. The air was cool and peaceful, the distant sounds of laughter and music a comforting hum. "It's even more beautiful than I imagined," Alara whispered, leaning her head on Rhys's shoulder, her hand intertwined with his. The snowflake ring felt like a natural extension of her being now, a constant reminder of their bond. "Every day with you is more beautiful than I could ever imagine," Rhys replied, his voice soft, filled with a love that echoed the vastness of the mountains around them. He turned to her, pulling her close and kissed her forehead. "Welcome home, my love, truly home." Alara looked up at him, her heart overflowing. She had arrived in Silvercaven seeking refuge, a quiet corner to mend her soul. She had found so much more. She had found a partner, a purpose, a family, and a love that was as deep and enduring as the ancient mountains themselves. Their story, once a series of blank pages, was now a vibrant tapestry, rich with shared moments, whispered secrets, and dreams woven together. The Snowdrift Inn, once just a place of rest, was now a beacon of their love, its warmth radiating outwards, inviting all who entered to feel a touch of the profound joy and belonging that had blossomed within its walls. As the night deepened, and the world outside prepared for a slumber, their hearts remained wide awake, ready for the countless enchanting chapters yet to come. They knew that life would bring its challenges, its quiet storms, but they also knew they would face them together, their hands intertwined, their love a constant, unwavering flame, warming even the coldest of winter nights, forever and always. And in that shared warmth, in that profound connection, Alara and Rhys knew they had found their own perfect, heartwarming, happily ever after.